Welcome to the Words Matter podcast, where conversations aren't just interviews, they're leadership moments. I'm your host, Christopher Rivers, speaker, coach, and founder of Chris Rivers RAPP. And I believe the words we choose shape the culture we lead. Today, I'm excited to have an icon in the world of sports marketing. My guest today is Jim Gatto, who spent 25 years with adidas basketball. He began working with adidas in Atlanta and eventually rose to his position as global basketball director, where he signed some of the most iconic NBA endorsement deals of that time. He also directed adidas nations and managed relationships with many of the game's most influential coaches and front office executives. Today, Jim is the founder and president of LEAP Marketing Group, a multifaceted consulting agency helping brands use sports as a catalyst for business growth. But beyond his professional accomplishments, Jim is a devoted husband to Rachel, whom he met at Elmira College, which we'll jump into, and a proud father to young Jack Gatto and Grace Gatto. It's an honor to welcome my longtime friend, colleague, and my neighbor, Jim Gatto. Jim, welcome to the Words Matter podcast.
Great to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me, brother.
Well, it's great to have you back. I was preparing for this last night, and I'm like, if I can't just come have an hour dialogue with anyone, don't have to prep, it would be you. So
we do it every day.
We do it every day. What's ironic about us doing this again, back in April of 2024, you were the first person I sat down with when I said, let me see what this podcast thing is all about. I can do this. And we kind of did that thing in Tiger. And we also that guy tried to sell some nutritional supplements too.
Right.
And we were in the back, and I was like, it wasn't the right time. And then connected with Michael, fast forward. So we're here. So we're just going to talk about a variety of things about your career, your life, where you've been, what you're doing, what you're looking forward to, obviously family. And I'm sure some stuff will just come up from our many years. So those of us who know you, I'm assuming we're going to have a lot of common interests in people watching these. Give us the history. Give me Long Island. Give me Jimmy the Cat. Give me baseball. Because I've heard those stories. I want to talk about how sports shaped you as a young man, middle school, going into high school, playing multiple sports. You can talk about your dad, whatever you want to get into.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for having me. Like I said, sport and basketball in general did shape my life. My dad, was a basketball coach in New York City and Queens, in Astoria, Marta Christie, then St. John's Prep. And, from
Hall of
Famer in the New York State Hall of Fame, over 500 games. They just last year put his name on the court at St. John's Prep.
Amazing.
Very special time for him and our family. And listen, growing up in that and in playing sports. And my dad was really a baseball guy, played at University of Tampa with Lou Piniella, and actually got a tryout with the Yankees. But, he got into basketball and coaching and, eventually had some great All-American city championships. But I didn't play for my dad.
Okay.
I didn't want to go out to Queens, want to stay with my boys in Lynbrook and Lynbrook High School, and, played basketball there, played baseball there. Tried soccer for 1 year, but I had enough of soccer, and my friend Jamie always gives me crap for that. But, it was tough sometimes because my dad was playing. He had his games, couldn't come to many of my games, but always tried when he had the chance. And but that was okay. I had my mom, had my brother and my sister, and loved the game. And I was fortunate enough when my dad had those All-Americans and was coaching, he was able to attend and coach at Sonny's Nike All-American camps at Princeton University. So I was fortunate enough to work there, help. I was 13, 14 years old, and that's where, the love of the game and just the aspect of being around great players and great coaches and great people, always stuck with me. And so eventually played college basketball at Elmira College. Don't know if too many people know that, but
where the hell is Elmira College?
Elmira College is upstate New York, over by Ithaca, about an hour from Binghamton as well. Great 4 years, small school, small private school, probably 1,000 kids, if that. Met some great people there.
And you're still connected with a couple of your coaches, right?
Yeah, till this day.
Yeah.
Assistant coach Terry Zay, head coach Kevin Moore.
That's special.
They always check in and, learn some life lessons through them as well. And they were young coaches at the time, but it was just a special time. You go to college, you meet friends, but you also have the ability to play basketball. And eventually met my wife there. At that time, my beautiful wife Rachel, and
she played basketball too.
She played basketball as well.
I mean, she doesn't talk about it a lot, but I could see her throwing elbows in the post. And
yeah, she was a shooter. She loved to shoot, and we had little competitions going back and forth. But
could she outshoot you, Jim?
Yeah, she probably could.
She probably could.
Okay, Rachel. A safe answer.
Good answer. Yes. Rachel, his wife was a better shooter than him in college. That's basically what he's saying. What type of player were you? A lot of us who knew you at Adidas last 25 years, I could list hundreds of people we're connected to. You used to talk a little trash on the noon ball run as an adult. So what type of player were you in high school that had the opportunity to go to Elmira College and play?
Actually, the coach at Elmira at the time was looking at someone else. He was looking at a friend of mine who's 6'9" kid. And at that time, I knew he was there. So I was that scrappy kid, assist, didn't worry about scoring. I didn't take that many shots in high school, but, I was a good leader. I was a vocal leader, and, it was just that guy that was diving on the floor, and, the team respected that. And I think my coach saw that in me, and I was a coach's son, so he knew I knew the game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I was. And that's what I was in college. Freshman year, I really didn't play. Sophomore year, I got more playing time. And, by junior year, I was team captain, junior and senior year. And senior year, we went 17-10, I think, and went to the ECAC playoffs upstate there. And, I hope I was that leader that coach needed, and all these other players that we had on the team, looked up to me, and was just that scrappy kid.
You talked about Elmira kind of shaping you. You think if you'd have been at Elmira today, you would have been in the transfer portal after year one?
Probably not. Probably not. I wasn't. No. No.
I mean, hey, you said you can play a lot. Most kids are not playing. I got to go. I'm not getting any burn. Talk about Elmira besides meeting Rachel, which was probably the best deal you ever signed in your life. What else did being up in upstate New York teach you off the court, or maybe some lessons you learned? I mean, you developed leadership skills, waiting your turn, gaining the trust of the coach. What did that Elmira experience prep you for before you went to Atlanta and started on this incredible professional journey that you had?
You have your ups and downs. I wasn't a great student, and I figured out that if I wanted to stay, I had to become a good student to stay on the team, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to play basketball. I didn't want to go back home, and I didn't want to let my parents down, and so you got to fight every day, and you have setbacks, but you fight through it. And the people that you meet, you want to make them proud as well. And I met some great people, roommates, friends from Long Island that were there. My friend Jason, to this day, who I speak to, my friend Rich, who lives out in Richmond. So you just learn life lessons every day. I mean, you're on your own. And back then, listen, you're calling your parents once a month, maybe on the payphone. And you don't see your parents as much, right? Until you go home for Thanksgiving. But we'd have to come back early because we had games. Or if it was Christmas, you had to get back to school and start early. So you learn that you have to do these things. You don't want to because you want to be home with your friends or your family, but you got responsibility to be back.
Have you been able to get back to Elmira in the last decade or 2 decades?
Yeah, I was probably back there maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. I went to an alumni weekend, and at that time they had built a new basketball court on campus because the basketball court that we had, they were like domes, and there was a hockey dome and a basketball dome. We had to drive like 20 minutes to go up there, but then they built this on campus, and I would always joke, they built this because of me.
Yes, of course. I'm sure you're waiting for that email and that jersey retirement ceremony still.
They still send me, the Alumni Association. They ask me to, give money and all that. So sometimes give a small check.
Hey, how many points you scored has no reflection on if you're going to get that donor request letter. You talked about your parents, Barbara and Jim, who I am blessed to know intimately. Talk about some of the life lessons that your dad as a coach you think instilled in you that helped shape you, because you didn't play for him in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he was dad at home and you watched him coach growing up. But is there anything that sticks out to you that you know that you could just hear your dad's voice? And you met my dad, so I was fortunate enough to have a great father too, that I know that his words still resonate with me today. But anything about Jim Sr.?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he knew so many people, and he was able to, bring me into the game and introduce me to great people
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years. And he always taught me, just treat people like you want to be treated, and he was respected that way. And my dad on the court was sometimes different, because he's coaching, he's yelling at the refs and doing this, and we didn't see too much. Sometimes he'd come home and be upset and this and that, but he would always leave that in the gym most of the time. So it was just the people part, and I think just always introducing me to the people, and that helped me communicate, and because at an early age I was able to meet so many different coaches within the New York High School Association, but just meeting Sonny Vaccaro and meeting coaches at the Nike All-American camps, and understanding the hard work that goes into what you want to do in the rest of your life.
So you learned early on the importance of relationships?
Absolutely.
Growing them, nurturing them?
Absolutely.
I think last time we attempted this, you talked about, did you go to NC State camp?
I went to NC State camp the year after they won the national championship in '83. That summer, one of my dad's old players, Ray Martin, was the assistant coach.
Okay.
So I went out there, stayed with Ray, and just went to Jim Valval. Jim's with a cigar, just walking around, just having a great time. They just won a national championship. It was a great time, and for me, I was young. I was 13 years old at the time. Went down there and just played hoops. And that was the thing. When Dad said, "Hey, you're going to go to camp." Okay. I love the game and something different, not staying in New York, traveling to North Carolina. It was an amazing time for me.
I can imagine Jim Valvano. Oh, his swag must have been on 200 at that point for sure.
The greatest.
What was your degree in?
My degree was in business administration.
Okay. Talk about, although it was 30 plus years ago, talk about that transition from graduating to how you got to Atlanta and before you started working at Adidas.
So after I graduated, at that time, I knew I wanted to be in sports, but in New York, you're going into the city, you're interviewing, you're not sure exactly what you want to do. And then probably 6 months after I graduated, 8 months, I saw an ad or something in the paper back then. There was an internship for the Atlanta Eagles in Atlanta, Georgia.
What is the Atlanta Eagles?
Atlanta Eagles semi-pro basketball league back in the day. And there are a few teams. There was a team in Long Island, actually. There was probably 6 or 7 teams, and got a call. They said, "Hey, come on down." So I went sight unseen, went down because I knew I wanted to get into sports. And at that time I had to get a job as well because it was an unpaid internship for, 3 or 4 months. So I went down to Atlanta, and my good friend Jason from Elmira was down there as well. So I roomed with him for a minute, but I got a job at a local mall to make ends meet.
What were you doing at the mall, Jim?
I was one of those guys, with ask you questions, Pepsi versus Coke, all those.
So the guy no one likes.
No one likes.
Okay.
No one likes. But my parents were gracious. I took one of the cars, and they helped me out, financially if I needed it. And so yeah, at that you do everything. You're in marketing, you're in sales, you're doing the event setup. It's a small shop, but you're in basketball, and you see meeting people, and a lot of different people that I did meet. A lot of the players. Darrell Armstrong played for that team. There were a bunch of great players that came through, but it was a great experience for me.
Atlanta Eagles?
Atlanta Eagles.
I have to YouTube that one. How did that first Adidas opportunity come?
So at that time, I was just finishing up. And at that time, Sonny had left Nike. And at that time, announced he was going to go work with Peter Moore and Rob Strasser at Adidas. And one of my dad's good friends, Richie Cosick, who would work at the RAPP camps and the Nike All-American camps from an educational standpoint, had told Sonny that I was in Atlanta. And Sonny remembered me, obviously, a little bit, and obviously remembers my dad. And just came about. They're like, Jim, we want you to come up to Portland, interview, and see if you want to be a part of the Adidas basketball team.
What was the Adidas basketball team like then?
We were all young. I mean, it was Ryan Moreland, Brett Joyce, Ken Thornby. Mark Scales was there, but he was in a different department. I mean, we were all young. We were all 23 years old. But when I got hired, I went back to Atlanta for a couple of years. They wanted me to be like a field rep. And, I tell the story, you've heard it plenty of times. I was at Sharif Abdur-Rahim's high school every day.
Sharif Abdur-Rahim.
Yeah. And his family, and he was one of the greatest players to come out, went to Cal, obviously, and had a great career, and he's doing his thing with the G League. And to this day, and you talk about relationships and things we've done and helped our community and helped people within the community, to this day, and even his brothers, and, thank me to this day. Jim, he was so good to my family and Sonny and Adidas. Yeah, it's love all the time.
So Atlanta, any favorite clubs you went to?
Nah.
You and Jermaine Dupri or Chris went down there hanging out?
Not that I can talk about.
I'm talking about good. Just had to ask, people want to know. So you start off as a field rep. So you just your first job wasn't signing NBA players to multi-million-dollar deals?
No, I was just, managing high schools, the high schools that we gave product to, and, just meeting with the coaches and stuff like that. Marietta High School, or, all those high schools. I remember going down to, where was it? Down in Atlanta, they had a tournament. I think it was Albany. They had some tournaments down in Albany, Georgia. Would go down there, but it was mostly Atlanta, unless I had to go down to Florida or do something that Sonny asked me to do. It was just high school stuff for 2 years.
How'd the transition come about? You leaving Atlanta, moving up to Portland?
Well, they felt I was doing a good job, and which was great. And they were like, "Listen, if you want to continue to work for Adidas and move up within the company, we'd like you to come to Portland." And pretty much a no-brainer. And, I've never been that far west. I didn't know what to expect. I was only there for 48 hours when I went up to interview for the first time. But I was like, this is what my journey is going to be. I have to do it. So went up there in 95, I think it was, to start my career at headquarters, you would say, U.S. headquarters at that time.
And Rachel went with you?
She didn't at first. She stayed a year because she had gotten a teaching job. So during that year, that's when I went back to Atlanta to propose to her. And luckily enough, she said yes.
Best deal you've closed.
And I was still in Portland. And then, after that school year, she came to Portland.
You recall our good friend, Chris Persinger, when you first got to Portland?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Chris still there. I think he's 32 years in.
He's 30 plus for sure.
Chris at that time was in the PR department. So he wasn't we were working closely on certain things, but it wasn't until later when he got into the basketball department that we became close. And, obviously being there 25, him there 30 years now, 30 plus, till this day, keep in touch.
I'm going to fast forward your career a little bit. 25 years, field rep, managing athletes. We're going to get into Kobe a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Just talk about, people always want to know about the deals. You negotiated a lot of endorsement deals, a lot. What are a few of the ones that stand out to you? Early days, some of the early ones.
The early days, the D Rose one was, Arntellum is a very tough negotiator,
Yes.
and they want the best.
Arntellum, yes,
they want the best for their athletes, and obviously BJ Armstrong. I mean, it was kind of probably the biggest one at that time that I had to do, but because we wanted him bad, and obviously everyone else did, and for us, I think we were lucky that he did go with Arntellum's group, because we knew them through our T-Mac days, through our Kobe days. And for us, listen, Adidas gave me the ability to budget-wise, and, you always communicated up, because we probably did go over what our budget was at that time. But, it's a deal's a deal. You got to maneuver and put certain things in there, if it's bonuses or triggers or certain things that we can get them to a certain level. And, that one worked out for sure.
What's something that you think the average person who's never been in a sports marketing meeting or a brand meeting or worked for a company doesn't understand about the complexities of putting together? Doesn't have to be a D Rose deal. Could just be a guy at 50 or 75,000. Just some of the things that are inside the architecture of a contract, and there's so many of the different things that you have to be aware of.
Yeah, well, I think the complexity is truthfully, I mean, the numbers and all that, sometimes the easy part, but it's the contractual obligation. It's the lawyer speak, right? And that's where our lawyer and their lawyers would get together, because you have different things, proration, if they get hurt or if they're not playing anymore, those different languages where obviously they don't want to lose any money.
Nope.
But as a brand, you have to protect yourself from certain things, if they get in trouble, or just certain things that if you have to go to court, if there's arbitration, choice of law, all these different things that I learned through our lawyers there, of where you would be in court. So it's just the lawyer part of it that gets hard sometimes, but you get to a certain point.
How did you develop the ability to make sure you protected your role as the brand, but also make sure that the agents you were working with knew that they could trust you and trust your word?
Well, I think that's where, for me, and I was good to a lot of people, and I was fair, and I would tell them no. I'd be straight up, and that's the thing. In negotiating, they always tell you, if you have to walk away, you have to walk away, and sometimes you had to. And listen, there was cursing on the phone, and don't get me wrong, and but you just have to, play both parts, and you gotta do what's right for the brand. I mean, that was my job as in my position was to do right by the brand.
You mentioned the Derrick Rose deal, which, MVP in 10. So was that 2011 when he did that? Or did
he did 08, I think, Rookie of the Year in 09, and then MVP in 11.
Yeah.
So with that, we talk about contracts. He kind of outplayed his contract, so we ripped it up and had to do, and suggested doing a new contract, because we knew we had something big, and so we did that, and came to a bigger number, of course, but
significantly bigger. And as
you're
welcome, Reggie.
You're welcome, yeah. And you as the day-to-day person, probably have some other great stories about those years with Derrick.
Yeah, I was in a group chat with my high school boys last night, and we were talking about rappers and who had better careers. And one of the comparisons I think I made, because they were talking about Rakim. Rakim couldn't make someone's top 3 because his catalog just wasn't long enough. I'm like, what are you talking about? What he put down was, I said, Rakim the rapper is what Derrick Rose was to basketball his first 3 or 4 years. Bam, bam, bam. He didn't need 10 albums. He didn't need 10 years. The impact he made on the game, on the sports, on the culture, on the city was just impactful.
Yeah,
so
we were in a good spot. We were rolling at that time from an Adidas standpoint. He was rolling, and we felt good about ourselves. And then, unfortunately, injuries happen. And then,
where were you when he hurt his leg first time?
Where was I? I was watching the game. I was at home. I wasn't there. It was, it was a playoff game, and the talk was they were up big and he was still in the game. But I was actually, the second time he got hurt, he was actually here in Portland. We were all at the game. And Yeah, it was a sad moment. And
I remember
a lot of tears.
I was coaching an AAU game in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I was at Bill Ingram's tournament coaching Jason Fawcett's and Jeremy Nesbitt's clutch players team. And we had just got beat down by Andre Drummond's team. Andre was just a monster.
Yep.
So I go to my phone, bling, like I missed like 20 texts. I'm like, what are we talking about? And then he got on the phone and I was like, oh. And Lauren, my daughter, had just torn her ACL. So within a month time, I had a person I worked with intimately. I worked D Rose, and then my own 14-year-old daughter was going through ACL. So I had ACLs all around me. And just, we talk about that moment. Obviously, Derek, we were fortunate enough to see him last year. We'll go to his retirement. But just the impact he had on both our lives, to think that we're still connected to him is just still pretty amazing.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Damian Lillard deal. Obviously, you led that for the brand. That was personal to me with Dame being from Oakland.
Yeah.
Dame's up here for a lot of different reasons, not just because he's a trailblazer. Dame is just so impactful and someone I respect. But I remember you and the Goodwins talking about that, and the Goodwins obviously had high expectations for what they wanted to see from a contract, but you had the ability to bring it all together. I know there was a lot of conversations managing with Germany. I think it was Grandshield was probably at that time, and just how that came together. I knew that was going to be so impactful for the brand, not just because I didn't know what he's going to be as a player.
Yeah, he was a counselor. When we first saw him, he was a counselor at our Adidas Nations. We had brought him in, small school kid, and he was killing it. And I always remember he was just a great player, but a great person that you can just tell, that he wanted this and so forth. And then when the opportunity came, I was like, you think someone's going to be special, and you take risks and a lot of these signings, but he was such a good person, and in dealing with the Goodwins, we've dealt with them in the past on other stuff, and we just got to a good point. And when he got drafted by Portland, it just made it even better for us. And as you know, you'd come into the office because at that time you didn't know too many people, and
he come hang out with us.
Come hang out with us and JR and the whole team. And to this day, I saw him probably a month ago at his camp over in Beaverton, and to this day, he's one of my favorites of all time.
Even to last night, Zach said he was working at the Blazers, and he hadn't seen Dame in a couple of years, and Dame walked by him. He kept looking at him, and he goes, "I know you," because he hadn't seen him in a little while. But just him taking a moment he saw Zach, doesn't matter how long, but he's such a down-to-earth person, man.
Yeah. And some of the things I've been working on myself, for my company, and, I call him or text him, say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this company or something else." Sends me a text, "Hey, give me a call."
He returned his own text?
He does.
And he called you back?
He not in call, but he texts. But most of the time it's.
I'm just getting that. But you didn't have to talk through someone else to get the name. Yeah,
no.
There's
a lot of guys like that are still in. Derek, Kyle Lowry, one of my favorites. Because I still like to reach out and say hello. What's up? And
now you are a supporter of people, man. Through all those 25 years, highs, lows, we'll touch lightly on some of it. But you ride for people, man. I think that's one of the many attributes to why people always support and look out. I can't go anywhere. How's Jimmy doing? What's Gatto up to? Or the Sean Foreman. What Gatto up to? Everyone says Gatto a little bit differently depending upon what part of the country I'm in. But you got love because you give that same love back to people. We talked about D Rose, great. We talked about Dame, all these great. Keep it real. This is the words matter. Tell me some deals that you did and they were awful. I mean, I got one, and I'm gonna see if you're gonna say it. But sometimes we just gamble wrong.
Yeah, there's
give a couple of them, Jim.
A couple.
I can start it off if you want me to.
Who do you want to start off with?
Adam Morrison.
Adam Morrison. Yes, Adam Morrison.
Fantastic collegiate player, Gonzaga. Fantastic.
And at that time, and truthfully, the money wasn't that big, but I thought, from a marketing standpoint, we could have some fun stuff with him, and his hair and his mustache and some things. And
you shot your shot.
We shot my shot, and that didn't happen. And
we don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know.
25 years at Adidas, starting off in Atlanta. Give me some traits that you think help you be successful. What A lot of young people in college hit you on LinkedIn, reach out to me, reach out to other people. They want to be in sports marketing. They want to be agents. What are some character traits or professional traits you would advise young people that they need to have in order to be resilient?
Well, the grind is the grind. I mean, you really do have to work and put in those hours, but it's, I think, listening and, from an Adidas standpoint, listen to all aspects of the company. Like, I was just in basketball, but I learned a lot from the brand marketing people, the footwear marketing people. A lot of people are smarter than me in a lot of different things, but you still have to learn that aspect so you can talk that talk whenever you're, discussing with an athlete or an agent or a parent. I mean, in my general part of, working at Adidas and basketball, I would say learn other aspects of within the company, but it's also, you're going to have ups and downs, and you have to take accountability on some of the things. And, if they're giving free classes on negotiation or classes on speaking in front of people, take advantage of those. I wish I would have done a lot more of that.
Continual education, yes.
Continual education.
Yes.
I think I wish I would have done more of that. So that would be one life lesson, do that. If you have the opportunity to learn and get better as a professional within your job, take those advantages and go see people and go talk face to face with people. I was always, you start an email, I'd just go run upstairs to the second floor or third floor and just go talk. One-on-one is just, I know it's tough with a lot of these young kids these days.
No one's in the office nowadays. But very
go have those one-on-one conversations, because it could be taken out of context on a text or an email, face to face, and just, give people hugs and give people, around you. We were always great with the travel people, the cafeteria people, take care of all the little people. They're not little people, but understand, they're the ones that really help you do your job better.
Unseen, undervalued, but the superstars.
I would always take care of people with tickets, with product, trips. We would take some travel people on some trips, and that made me happy because they worked as hard as we did, and getting players or athletes or teams to a certain destination, it was them. It wasn't me. They made my job easy.
And just the ability for them just to get a little bit of what they thought that we got all the time definitely made people feel good. Let's talk about resiliency. Obviously, September of 2017, all of our lives got turned upside down. We'll address that on a completely another podcast. But talk about things that during those dark days, I had some too. But talk about things that allowed you to always remember that the sun was still going to effing come up. Because there were days I remember we didn't know if it was going to come up.
Yeah.
But what?
It was.
Give me
tough. I mean, it's just the family and people you have around you supporting you, and you knew that, and I told my kids that, and if I was a jerk or an ass, it would be more difficult for us. Because I wouldn't have the support of knowing, listen, when we get through this, everything's going to be okay. Because there is light at the end of the tunnel, even though how hard it was and how difficult it was. Certain people went away, but I didn't worry about those people. It was the people that had my back from day one. And there was so many of them. It was because of those relationships, I think, that I built, and that was fair to these people. And, they all understood that, what had happened probably shouldn't have happened and wasn't fair in a lot of ways, but life isn't fair sometimes. And, you go on and, I think it was my background and being from New York and, my boys from Lynbrook, and
you haven't seen the crew till you see the Lynbrook boys at the NCAA Final Four. Another podcast. I remember when we were in those dark days, our sons, Zach and Jack, are thick as thieves every day. I don't even know what they talk about now, but I remember when we were just starting that chapter of our lives that I had to give him something. Like, I had to give him some words. And I didn't know what to say. And very simply, well, not sure what's happening, but it's going to be okay. But I remember I had to look him in the eye one day and I said, son, what you're hearing, what you're reading, a lot of misinformation, some truth, but a lot of misinformation out there. But I said, I want you to know that your father, he took some shortcuts and he cut some corners and he got himself into a predicament that is most likely going to end up okay over time. But in the heat of battle, in the heat of competition, he took some shortcuts. And that's why I'm in this predicament, because I knew I had to give him something. I couldn't give him stuff that, couldn't give him too much at 17, but he's a junior in high school. They were reading things in the feed every day, but I knew that was a moment for me as a dad that I had to stand up and be accounted for, where I had to look into, I don't know, he was going through bad hair phases. I look at back more than anything else. But
I've seen a lot of those with Zach.
Yeah, but that was a time where I had to treat him as a young man and just to give him some truth, because how much time we spent together at that time. But can you remember any conversations you had with the kids that was?
Yeah, I think at that time it wasn't maybe that in depth. I think it was probably later on, when Jack would ask me questions, you say, listen, like you said, I could have said no. I didn't. Did I make a mistake? Whatever the industry and how it worked and so forth, I did what I did. Right. And to this day, a lot of us, listen, you broke an NCAA rule, but, was it a crime, that it all happened? No. And he knew who I was. And then I think you probably had a discussion with the kids as well. And, other people did too. And he knew who I was as a person but those life lessons of, listen, if you're ever in a predicament, you might think twice about how you're going to do things. So, it's
more on this topic in a whole separate podcast. We are selling sponsorships to that one too.
Yeah.
So hit me up and we'll get to that. Now, I appreciate you just sharing that insights, but let's talk about reinventing yourself. I've gone through some of that. Maybe I'm still going through. I had a buddy go, "Are you going through a midlife crisis?" I'm like, bro, I'm way past midlife. I like to think that I'm in a place where I realize that we don't have as much time left as we would like. So I got to try to get after it every day. What type of things have you been doing the last 2 or 3 years? And we're going to get into Leap Marketing, your consulting agency that you started. No, let's just start there. You're at home, went away for a little bit, came back. Some people are there, some people are not there. I didn't see it obviously to the extent you have, but there's people who, I don't have to even say their names, who haven't picked up the phone in 8 years. So my feelings hurt. I don't know if they're hurt, but you just didn't think some people would be those people. And what I learned through that process is that I became, I guess I'm still staying on this topic because I think it's very important. I became a more empathetic process. The ish that we were in, the heat we were under, the scrutiny, the misinformation, all the stuff we were going through, that as much as we were in the storm and you at the tip of the storm, I learned to be more empathetic to others. Because I knew that those 1 or 2 people that always checked in, the one person that always called, the one person that always sent the text, those are the people that kept me going. So I tried to take that energy and that fuel that people gave me and gave it back to others. So went through the situation, regrouped, major life halt. You said, this is who I am. I'm Jim F. Gatto. I've had a 25-year, I won't count the Atlanta Eagles, career in this. So you said, you know what, I gotta do what I know. I'm a relationship person. I have contacts across the world. How did you start Leap Marketing? Share, I know what it stands for, what does Leap stand for, and give us just a little bit on what you're building.
Well, at that time when, I left Adidas, I knew I had to start something, and, you're dealing with a lot of stuff and I knew I probably had to start something on my own to figure out the next journey of my work life. And, cause I knew it was probably going to be tough getting into a corporation right away until, things got a little cooler and so forth. But, I started Leap. Leap is actually an acronym for all the different phases of my life. L for Limbrook, E for Elmira, A for Atlanta, where I started, and P for Portland. So kind of worked out perfectly.
Yes,
that's where I got the name. And I got some help from my good friend Albert Hall.
Shout out to Albert Hall Pass Media.
On some marketing stuff and how to start and do some things. And listen, that's what it was. It was just using my relationships in the industry, say, hey, listen, I got this. If you need help on anything from a marketing, event, negotiations, anything that, the value that I think I can bring, or I know I can bring, I'm here, I'm figuring out the next steps, but, I need your help to help me, get to that next level of what I want to do. And, the past 2 or 3 years, just done a multiple of different things. And, you just grinding, you're working for your next client. And, I've had a lot of help through the years. David and Dana Pump, Tracy Morris have been tremendous. Albert Hall, he's had me work at NBA summer leagues. So when I was first, getting in, and, with that, it gets me in front of NBA personnel, gets me in front of agents and all these different things to reinvent, put my face out there. It was tough for me. It really was. And because I didn't know how people were going to react. And I think, that was kind of where I thought too much about it. And,
I was there. That cloud. It's like that cloud.
How are people going to react?
No one else sees it, but you feel that cloud.
Yeah.
And
you definitely do. And it takes time. And, it's been 8 years now, and I'm still trying to figure out a lot of different things. But, just you and guys, Matt Davis, Dan Cutler at Excel have helped me, Anthony and Sam. There's people that truly, really trying to help me out. And a lot of things didn't happen. With certain things, but that's okay. You just got to fight. You got to grind, and show your family and friends that you're here. You're not going anywhere.
Nope. So Leap Marketing, Lynbrook, Elmira, Atlanta, Portland. How over the decades? So you can go Adidas or Leap, because this is something you probably deal with each day. How do you balance the pressure of staying true to your authentic self, even though right now with the stuff you're working with Darren, which we'll get to, just having to close deals? We've seen so many people switch, man. Like they're one way when they got one athlete, they're a different way with another athlete. Oh, then they switch to a different job. How do you stay true and genuine to who you are?
Well, I think I learned a lot through the experiences of, what had happened. And, if I feel that, it's not going to work, or I get a bad feeling of, it's just not the right fit, right? Just go on to the next. And I think it's okay. It's okay to fail or, not get into something that you thought. I just got to go on to the next, and I've had conversations with shoe companies and it just hasn't worked out, but I got to go on to the next one. I can't, if it's a no, it's a no. But I'm going to call you back in 6 months and check in. Because that's who I am.
You are the king of the Monday check-in. You are the Monday check-in guy. I don't like this question, but everyone asks it. Maybe audiences like it. But anything you would tell yourself in 1993 in Atlanta about the journey of being a professional? Because you've had a hell of a career. You've touched and impacted thousands. You've put a lot of effing money in people's families, generational families. It was your job, but you did it with grace. You did it with kindness. What would anything you tell yourself in 1993?
Wow, it's loaded.
Hey, this is the words matter, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
no softball questions here.
Every aspect that I've gone through, even the hard times, I mean, I'd still do it the way I did it.
I get that.
I maybe wouldn't have signed this guy or try to sign that guy, but that's how things happen. And the unfortunate part that happened derailed a little bit, and would I've done some things different, hindsight, of course, but
sorry,
it happened. And am I going to tell myself in 1993, hey,
watch out for this
when you're on a phone call at a certain time and certain date, don't speak about this, that, or the other.
Yes.
But no, I've had a blessed life.
Let's talk about people that we've worked with. When you got to Adidas, and I know I'm going back in time, but I think it's important because we're still connected to some of these people. Talk about the pumps. Talk about your relationship with them as humans. Talk about how you've been able to navigate their uniqueness. And I say that with love for David and Dana. And y'all still owe me. We'll address that later. But just how people like that, or whether it's, the early days when it was the pumps, they were obviously external consultants, but whether it's Tracy in office and Kalish and Lori Milligan, like just talk about some of the people that you've been around that have poured into you and you've poured into them.
Yeah, throughout those years, the early years at Adidas, and everyone, when we were so young, if it was the pumps, if it was my good friend Maktar or Anthony Lopez, Felipe's brother, who I speak to, and even Maktar, you just had this small group because we grinded every day and we did it for the brand, and a lot of it was love for Sonny and wanting to make him proud and happy. So the pumps were unique and they were grinded, how hard they worked, and you see where they are today, and a lot of the great things that they do for cancer research and for their foundation, and they've built that because of their relationships and good, bad, or indifferent of certain people that might not agree with some of the things, so be
Pumps
it.
are hustling,
but they've been so good to me, and so many other people have, the other people that we worked with, and everyone's done so great within their lives, be it, Ryan or Mark Scales, who's at Fanatics.
You mentioned Thornby earlier.
Ken Thornby was at New Balance, and, John Dillon, who my son works for right now. And it's just great to see that everyone has just worked really hard in their life and have become successful, and they probably had up and downs too. And I know they have. But the great part is we've all kept in touch, and we still love each other to this day.
You got to work with John Starch, Joe Dumars, who were some of the early Adidas athletes in the 90s. Was my Twan,
Jalen Rose, Detlef Schrempf. John Starks was kind of my first foray into the NBA, because when I went up to actually interview for the job, Adidas was working on signing him, which they eventually did. But those early days and the grind with dealing with all those guys. Joe Dumars is one of my favorite people of all time, and he would always check in, still does. But those young, even those young days with Tracy and Kobe, amazing times. We had some great people.
See, I didn't start until June 1-ish of 99. So at that time, it was kind of a company. It was kind of organized. I hear you guys talk about the stuff 98, 97, 95, where you guys were in what do you guys call the office in Northeast?
Nimbus?
No, before Nimbus. You're a person always talking about it.
Over in Northeast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously Adidas evolved, headquarters in Germany, Adidas corporates in Beaverton, and then obviously moved to Portland. So actually I drove by the spot. It's really, really beautiful now.
Yeah.
Talk about Kobe. Talk about you were Kobe's day-to-day person at Adidas. Talk about that experience. Talk about his mindset then. If you want to share your story about one of his trips to Herzl when he wasn't happy, whatever you want to give us. But just talk about the impact Kobe had on your life.
Yeah, well, in 96, when I was, in the offices, I was doing a bunch of stuff, grassroots, college stuff. And Sonny came to me, he's like, I want you to handle Kobe day to day. I was like, this is great. Of course. Kobe, obviously we knew who he was coming out and that hard work that we put forth for him to come to the brand. And listen, those are early stages at Adidas as well. And we were figuring ourselves out from a product standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. But at that time, when we first signed Kobe, we brought him to Bend, Oregon, to a sales meeting. We were on a small little private jet with Arn Tellem. Some of the funny stories on that flight. There was no bathroom because it was so small, and it was just Arn had a bladder that he had to go all the time, and it was just funny. But with Kobe, listen, and I had such a great relationship with his family as well. We were on so many international trips together, and he was
Like to where? Where'd you guys go?
We went everywhere, Australia, everywhere in Asia. Obviously, we went to Germany and Europe. I went to Italy, went to his hometown where he grew up once, in Reggio Emilia. So we went all over, but those early years with the Lakers, and we were finding ourselves too. When he made the All-Star team, the dunk contest, giving him the purple shoes when he had the dunk contest. I was told not to do it. I did it anyway. I thought I was going to get fired because those are the moments, you take a chance because you knew Kobe was that big. But Kobe was always tremendous to me and my family. We got pictures of him holding Jack when he was born, when he came to Portland. I think Jack was 8 weeks old, maybe at that time. But he was always great to my family. And, there are a lot of times, a lot of meetings at his house, and Peter Moore, or if it was the footwear group, it was a good time, but also, he came to ABCD that one year.
I got a story around that.
That 1 year, and I think Lenny Cook was trying to talk some smack to him. Kobe put him in his place. So yeah, it was great times, and one of the saddest moments of my life.
I didn't ever work with him when he's at Adidas. You were handling that, but I remember being at ABCD camp somewhere at the Hilton Hashburg Heights Hotel with Sonny.
Yeah.
And Sonny got a phone call, and it was either Kobe or I don't want to say exactly, but it was a Kobe affiliated call, and he was just going off. This was probably Kobe. So I said, Sonny, what's going on? Isn't he coming to camp? He's like, yeah. I guess the plane went to LA and had to refuel. And Kobe was pissed that it wasn't a direct flight from LA to Teterboro. And he snapped because the plane wasn't big enough to have enough gas. So I'm like, come on. Like, I'd never been on a private jet at that time. I'm like, prima donna, whatever. And Sonny goes, Rivers, let me tell you something right now. You want to deal with the big time players, be prepared to deal with the big time effing problems. And I've never forgotten that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got 4 or 5 quotes from Sonny that I'll never forget. That was one of the most realest things ever. And I knew I grew up after that statement. So it's realizing that the bigger the player, I'm not saying the problem, but just the bigger everything was going to be.
Yeah. You have to take the good with the bad.
You got to take the good with the
bad. These
bad.
guys are professional athletes, and some do things the right way, some do it the wrong way. Yeah. But I didn't get yelled at that time, but for that, hopefully that wasn't me setting that up. But
you didn't have those budget codes.
No.
But Kobe was obviously the impact he had on your family's life. I see the way you still revere justice, and I remember the moon boot shoe and the leather outfits, and we were seeing those, send them out to flares.
We tried. We tried. We fought the fight. Maybe it wasn't the right way to go, but, we had some good times. And, like you said, those years with Kobe, T-Mac, Antoine Walker.
Antoine's still one of the best, man.
Yeah.
Kindest dudes. Let's talk about family and life and just personal perspective. We had sons 4 months apart. I remember the day I was driving in Houston, and you've heard me tell the story before. Jack's birthday is the 8th, 9th, 11th. What day is Jack's birthday?
8th.
March 8th, 2001. I'm driving to Houston, think I was just left John Urie or something like that. John Urie. He hadn't changed. And you called me and you said, yo, I think you said something like, Jack Gatto has just entered the world or used a basketball term. I'm like, what? What? The baby's here? So all I have to say is, how was being a father, husband's different, how was being a father influence you as a leader in business? Because I know I've changed. And the older my kids got, the better I got as a leader, because I just learned more. And I can't think of the things that I instilled on other people's kids as a coach when I didn't have kids, because you just get different perspectives. So how has being a father influenced your leadership and business decisions at this chapter in your life?
Because obviously, they're your kids, and you want the best for them. And like you said, when we were coaching some of their athletic programs and so forth,
we were good too.
You want to give back, and you learn different temperaments, I think, of kids and so forth, and just learning patience and different aspects of being a parent carrying over to, the work world. And you got to be patient sometimes and vocal in different ways. And, I think having your kids speak to you and give their aspect of, even at whatever age it is, their life and their perspective, and just listening, and then, learning that and giving them accountability. And I think that was a big part for me, is later in life at Adidas, working with a lot of young people and giving them the opportunity to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were very good at that, and giving them the accountability, and just say, hey, if it was, give me a budget, give me a plan, and I'll listen to it, and we'll see what happens. But I think giving them accountability and learning life lessons on their own. But I think being outspoken as well and giving your opinion is always a good thing. And I think you learn that from your kids as well, because obviously they have a lot of opinions.
They got a lot. Speaking of your kids, tell me something you're most proud of each of your kids, Jack and Grace, where they are currently in their lives. Obviously, I keep track of them. I know where they are.
Yeah. Well, Jack's living in New York. He's got his own apartment in Hoboken now. And listen, coming out of college, it's tough. It's tough, right? And, they get down on themselves, I think, but I'm so proud of him, navigating New York, the subway system, got his own place now, enjoying life and just, every day, and just ask him if he's learning on the job, and he is, and went on his first work road trip to North Carolina, and which was exciting for him, and hopefully the life lessons I'm giving him, and just listen, learn, and things will be great. But for him, he's doing great.
24.
So,
they'll be 25 next in March.
Off my insurance. No.
Save that bread. Grace?
And Grace is in her
Fort Collins
senior year in Fort Collins. She's doing great. Grace has the car up there, and she works, at a pizza place. So she's going to school. She's working and enjoying her senior year. And we're going to go see her in a couple of weeks. And, she's starting to talk about, Dad, put me in front of some people, So we're going to start doing that now, get an early start. Hopefully, once she graduates in May, she has a little head start, and that's how Grace thinks. And, just proud of, who she's become, a young woman, and excited for, her next steps, her next journey.
Knowing your kid as well as I do, I remember that first time, not the first time, but the time you and Rachel might have been to the Maui Classic, and Jack stayed with us.
Yeah.
And we got video of him and Zach, 2 or 3.
Same pajamas.
I don't think they talked, because Zach definitely wasn't talking at that point. But just to think that our families had been that connected. When I introduced him as my neighbor, 5 doors down. I mean, not like, oh, my neighbor. No, 5 doors down. Like, we meet at the corner to do handoffs, which is silly. It's only 5 doors, but
he'll walk by, he'll do his walk. And if I have the windows open in my media room upstairs, Jim.
Yeah. Or he's out walking his dog, Coach, passing by the house, and Coach wants to come try to do his business on my lawn. Say, not here, Coach. His dog's name is Coach. We actually went and picked up Coach together and brought him home and surprised the family.
You've been in a lot of the big moments. You've been there for sure.
I've definitely been to enough of them. Fun fact, I didn't know until we were preparing for this. Culinary school?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
When you're thinking about going to college, and, I wanted to play basketball, and I got that opportunity, but, I wasn't a great student, and I thought about, if I didn't go to college, I was going to maybe go to culinary school, because I love cooking with my mom. My mom is a great
Mom
cook.
is nice in the kitchen. Barbara, ship some food out.
So I just always enjoyed cooking with her, and I just, always, there was this in the back of my mind, maybe going to culinary school. So yeah, but didn't happen, but I still like to cook to this
What
day.
does Chef Jimmy do today in 2025? So like when you go, you always call me. Jim's good to say, yo, I'm at Safeway. Can I grab you anything? We're at Costco. Costco, you kind of got to grab your own stuff because you got to see it, got to sample. But I appreciate, like, what does Chef Jimmy do when he's trying to like showcase the skills?
My go-to is probably my chicken parm.
Okay.
So, with a little spaghetti on the side or something like that. It's probably Italian. My kids like the chicken parm as well, so it was easy.
Does Rachel eat it?
Yeah, she does.
I know Rachel has selective food taste.
She does that, but it's just the simple stuff. Nothing too crazy. The kids like make sausage and peppers sometimes. They like that, but just cooking breakfast, the normal stuff, and if it's omelets and pancakes, in the morning. But nothing crazy.
Good. We're going to do a little rapid fire with these. Talk about some other NBA players that impacted you, that you just enjoyed. They don't have to do with the type of deal. I mean, we covered Dame, covered D, covered Kobe, but there's so many guys we got to see at 21 and 22 come in whose lives that, might have been just 2 or 3 years there with us. Might have been someone like Kyle Lowry, who was at an event with Chris Dennis a couple weeks ago and called to reach out.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle was one of those guys. And there's so many, even the few years, Porzingis was such a great guy. Obviously I love my New York Knicks, but I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Who else? Even like Gilbert Arenas. I mean, Gil, who he is today is who he was back then. We knew Gil consistent and Gil, when we talk about negotiations, those are some tough negotiations there, but he was the same person, the lucky guy kind of guy. And, he was kind of the first ones with the low tops too. So he brought some culture and love and style to the game as well. But yeah, I mean, the early guys, the Joe Dumars, even guys that you see now, some of their kids, like Theo Ratliff's kids are playing now, right? Aren't they?
There's a bunch of them. Whenever I see Matt Barnes, I think his kids are playing.
And that's what you see now. All these players, kids that we knew, like Boozer was never with us, but seeing his kids grow up, it's amazing.
Yes, a lot of talk recently about Adidas and Tracy and Sonny bringing ABCD camp back. Your phone's ringing, I get a call or two. So do you have a favorite ABCD camp memory?
There's so many. I mean,
give me a couple of them.
I mean, memory from like those early days, just we'd have to put up the banners.
Right.
I'm climbing up on scaffolding and putting banners up because that's how we did it back then. We did everything. But from playing, players being there, obviously when LeBron and Sebastian and the Lenny Cook and those stories of just the players back then. Obviously it was just so different because, these kids from the West Coast heard about these kids from the East Coast, and this was the one time that they were going to meet. Mm-hmm. No social media, no, obviously AAU playing, against each other, depending if you were on the Adidas circuit or Nike circuit. But this is the one time everyone came together. Some funny stories of college coaches coming up to me and saying, "Hey, tell them I'm saying hello to Carmelo. Go say hello to Carmelo for me. Tell him I said hello," or those certain things back in the day when these coaches coming in, and that's where it was great. These coaches that you learn a lot from because they were the ones that, from the recruiting standpoint, and just trying to get these kids and so forth. We had a lot of good stories in the product room. Obviously, guys trying to come in and get extra stuff.
No, that never happened.
At the end of camp, Gary DeCesar would bring a truck up to the back. All our New York guys, we just give it to him because we didn't want to ship it back. It was great.
And every kid that ever came to ABCD paid for their uniform before they went home. Just so we're record. Everyone paid and has a receipt for it.
Yeah, so, I still got the receipts.
Yes. Last question, because we just can't get all this done. Mets, Jets, Knicks, man, how do you just survive as a fan knowing your teams just can't get it done? Like, I'm not a fan of a team, so I talk a lot of mess, but my job is to instigate. How do you survive? The Jets, bro, and the Knicks and the Mets.
Well, the Jets, I mean, you can't. I mean, the Mets made the playoffs last year. They choked this year. They got the biggest payroll. You just got to roll because you have to have faith. I mean, the Knicks, obviously, till I die. I mean, hopefully I get to see them win a championship before.
Mike Brown got it, bro.
So obviously we were close. I think we're going to have a great year this year. Some of the Eastern Conference teams are a little hurt this year, but it's the NBA. It's tough. I get it, but hope.
Good. Well, shout out to some of those people we have in common. Zach Fawcett, Dan Moy. We talked about Chris Rosenberger. Lori Bridgman, Molly Rusko, Sarah Carlson.
So many great people.
I always see Chris Hamper. He's telling lies about, I used to hoop, and folks don't really remember that. I play a little bit. Chris Hamper, every time I see him, I just want to smack him. He's always talking ish.
He says the same stuff about me.
Same stuff every time. Let's do this again. What I'd like to do is in a couple months, we'll be on episode 12 or 13 by then. I want to bring you in, Darren Shellstad. I want to talk about what you guys are working on.
Okay.
I think it's important that we give some shine since you guys are on the cutting edge of something I think is going to be very, very impactful to families and young athletes, and that's what I'm passionate about. So this podcast is about just giving nuggets to people who need them. So as much as we were storytelling and reminiscing, when you guys come back, I kind of want to dial it up a little bit and
let's do it
and promote that. So it's a wrap. Words Matter Podcast, episode 5. I'm your host, Christopher Rivers. This is my brother, my neighbor, Jim Gatto. And it's been a great day. Appreciate the Alberta Street Pub for hosting us again. Executive producer, Michael Hawthorne in the back, talking about those Benson Techman Astros. And young Zeke on the camera. We appreciate you guys. We're out.
Thank you, fellas. Thanks, beer.